This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, it's gonna be like living your life. Do you wanna have a relationship and put time into that and be singing in the rain? Or do you wanna be a doctor and spend all your time working on your career? Or do you want to just, hey, spend all my money on the mansion and just hang out there? Today, we're going to be doing all those things, trying to look at the pursuit of happiness. This is a game that is for 1 to 4 players. Takes about an hour to 90 minutes to play. Let me show you how it's played, and we'll see you on the other side. Over the course of the game, or your life, you're going to go from teen through adulthood and through old age. And you're going to be doing things like studying to gain knowledge, playing to gain creativity, interacting to gain influence. You'll be working on projects, spending money, and getting temporary jobs. At the beginning of the game, everyone gets a child trait card. In fact, you get 2 of them to choose from. Do I want to be rich or productive? This just gives you something to sort of start, some starting resources. And so at the beginning of each adult round, I gain a coin. Whenever you get paid for your job, gain $1 or more. I'd like to be productive. This one goes away, and I would get my starting resources. There's my tokens for tracking resources, and they have denominations of 1s and 5s. Now over the course of the round, you start by default with 6 time. And you're going to be spending these going turn by turn with different people in clockwise motion. Each time you're going to be placing one of these and doing an action. Sort of a worker placement style. So if I want to go to study, I would go there and I would get 3 knowledge. On a subsequent turn, if I went here, I would get 3 creativity, 3 interaction. Now if I wanted to go to a space that I went to before, I can do it. But if I have a 1 hourglass there that was from before, I have to gain stress. So I would gain 1 stress here. Now there's different ways that stress will go up and different ways that stress will go down. But if at any point I'm here, when I do get my markers at the beginning of the round, I'm going to have 1 less or 2 less or 3 less if I'm really stressed out. And if my stress ever goes off the edge, essentially the game's over for me and I am out. Now other things you can do are taking projects, spending money, and at the beginning of the game just take a temporary job for money. Later on, the next round, these will open up. I'll talk about those then. So on the projects, I could take one of these 3. These are sort of basic type projects, and I basically will always start the basic ones on the first level. So can I work out? This would reduce my short-term happiness, but over time it's going to end up giving me points. This is sort of an interesting one. These ones, I will need knowledge, and as I increase the project, going from political manifesto from observing to improving, influence, and releasing, I'll end up getting points and other resources. Scout group, if I'm a tenderfoot, then a second class, then a star, then a leader, I can work my way down on this project, starting with the beginning on a basic one, and getting better rewards as I continue to spend time on that project. So in this case, yes, let's say we do observe, we do political manifesto. So essentially what I do is, because it's a basic, I'd start on the lowest level, I put a little cube there, and essentially I would spend 1 knowledge and observing, and I would gain 2 creativity from it. Now on a future turn, essentially I can use this, work on this specific project, and then give another 2 knowledge, and move this down, and I would get 1 point of long-term happiness, and I would gain 1 influence. And so you can continue to work on these, and you don't get extra stress because you're just working on this project multiple times. Sometimes when you get to the end, you actually have to give an additional time because it takes time to release, and 4 to get 5 points. And once it's completed, it goes out of your stalls. You keep it because there's some bonuses that you can get for this, but this takes up 1 piece of your stall where you can have 3 of total of projects, jobs, and partners. And so there's only 3 stalls that you can have there. If you ever decide to get rid of one of these without finishing it, you gain stress and lose short-term happiness. Now we've talked about stress going up and down and taking more time or gaining more time, but we haven't talked about short-term happiness. As this moves up, if I'm +1, this means that I can use 1 less resource when working on a project, 2 less, or if my short-term happiness goes down, I have to actually spend 1 more of any of those to get something done. Also, whoever's the highest will be the first player for the next round. You can also go down 1 short-term happiness to basically flesh out one of the stalls of cards that are on the board to get you some fresh ones. Now if you go here and you spend, you can basically get an item or an activity. Now these typically cost money but give you certain things like points and short-term happiness and other resources and such. But with the activities, they don't count as the 3 stalls that you have to have for the other things, projects, jobs, and relationships. You can have as many of these as you want. And you don't have to start on the first one. You can start it anyway. You can never go backwards on one, but you can always jump forward. So I could do the wardrobe for $2 and get this for the rewards. And then next time I activate this card, I could actually jump to the third one. And some of these actually have upkeep. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But let's say I did this. Let's say I did the first one. I did the wardrobe. So let's say I paid 2 coins for the wardrobe, and I'd get an influence, short-term happiness, and 1 point of long-term happiness. And those long-term happiness are just tracked on the outside of the board. Now each player is basically doing one action at a time, and it's going to the player to the left. Once everyone's out of time, we go to the next one. Now in the adult years, things change. We now uncover these, and we can get a real job. We can start a relationship, and we can go overtime. If we go overtime, we get 2 more time actions that we can do that round, but we also gain 2 stress from it. You can always rest, which I didn't mention last time, is if you go to this rest space, essentially you go back on your stress. But when going back on stress, you can't go to another color. So let's say I rested, I usually could go back too, but I get stopped at this color. The only way to move to the next color is to get a heart. Some cards give you that. So if I was here, let's just say, and I used a heart, I would go from the second of this one to the second of the next one, and that's how to get better stress, is by getting the hearts. Otherwise, you get too stressed out. Now, as we start a new round, we do an upkeep phase. Essentially, we replace all the cards on the board, and we gain or lose different hourglasses depending on certain cards. And then we also make sure we don't have more than 3 of total of projects, jobs, and relationships, and we have to make sure we don't have more than 1 relationship. We'll get more into that in just a moment. Then we'll pay upkeep costs. Let's say I had this down to the 2nd level. On the left are upkeep costs for certain things. This says at the beginning of each round, and they're an upkeep fees, I have to spend 3 coins, but it gets me a point. If I'm here, I can spend 6 coins, but it gets me 2 points. If I can't keep the upkeep, well, this card will go away, and then I lose 1 stress and 1 short-term happiness anytime I lose a card that I don't want to lose. Now, as we refill cards, I want to show you that the projects, there's 2 other different types of projects other than basic. There's ones that have a clock, and it's a single round. In this one, you can basically jump to any level that you want to go to, but it leaves at the end of the round with no penalty. The other one is a group project. This is a role-playing group. You can go to one of these 4 things and give the certain thing and then get the certain reward. But if multiple people go there, let's say I do the rogue and I do the mage, and somebody else does the game master. For however many people had gone to this box, you look at that reward. If 3 people had gone there, then essentially every person that has a time clock would get 1 of each of these 3 rewards. So it's a way to actually work on a card together, and each of you get multiple rewards in addition to the ones that you normally get. Now I want to show you the jobs. Now you go to the get job space, and here you spend 4 books and you get a science job. You'd be a technician. And you'd get 6 coins. But this one also has upkeep. At the beginning of every round, you get to spend 1 of your times to it and 2 books to get 6 coins. And if you don't keep it, well, then it goes away. You can only have 1 job at a time, but if you replace it, you don't get negatively affected, only if you can't use the upkeep. Now, these are all double-sided, which are really cool. Like, this is a level 1 science job. This is a level 2 science job, which is a surgeon. All these flip over. Hey, an engineer. They all have the same stats, but it's just a different job, a nice way to keep the replayability good in the game. So, if you have this job, you can actually spend 6 books for a level 2 job of science. This is a level 2 job of science. I could spend 6 books. I would get the level 2 job, 3 coins and 3 points, and then this would go in front of me and replace that job. So ways of promoting. Now on to relationships. Now both these are all double-sided as well. It has a male counterpart on the other side, but they're all the same stats, but they're just whether you want to play with male or female characters. And the cool thing is when you go to the date and you go here, you kind of get this and you get something right away. This person gives you interaction. This one gives you some knowledge and creativity. This one gives you some creativity and interaction. Now when you go to this card again when it's in front of you, now this is one of the 3 stalls that you would use between projects and jobs and partners. You can go here and go to have a relationship. Now this person wants you to have at least 2 items. They're sort of a gold digger in that sense. This one wants you to have at least 5 interaction, and this one wants you to be smart. You need to have at least, don't spend it, but you just have to have it. I think that's a cool thematic thing. And you get certain things. However, when you're in this stage, at the upkeep at the beginning of every round, this thing's gonna cost you a time. But then it's gonna get you some interaction and some short-term happiness. This same thing here. And if you then go to it a 3rd time, you get to raise a family. Now these would go off the board and be on your stall. This one costs 2 time at the beginning, but gets you 4 points. All 3 of these do actually. The first time you go there, get you 2, and then the upkeep. Now, If you happen to get a second relationship, you automatically gain 1 stress. And then at the beginning of every round, you gain another stress if you have 2 relationships, because they take a lot of time, and to have 2 relationships at one time is just super stressful. And as the rounds move on, we eventually get to old age, where at the beginning, everybody gets 3 stress. If you make it to the next round, another 6 stress, and then another 9 stress. So one of these rounds, everyone will pretty much die. And then you just essentially do your final scoring. Now at the end of the game, you do inheritance. So for every 5 of the same resource, you get a point, and also for every 5 coins, you get a point. Then you look at this. At the beginning of the game, there were 1 life goal put out for each player randomly, and then these were sort of end game goals. Buy the most items, you get 1 per most item, max 5. Complete the most projects. Have the least this, and this. When you die, you get 3 points. So basically, have used all your resources. Different ways to gain final points. Whoever has the most is the winner. All right, well, there's the pursuit of happiness. I mean, this really is the game of life, the Euro game. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go, and I like that this game has different things that you can try, different strategies. I mean, in the end, essentially, you're trying to build a good engine, and you're trying to, hey, this gives me knowledge, and that knowledge is what this relationship wants. And, you know, you're trying to look for those things, those hooks to, hey, I have this input, this card gives me that output, I can spool that to another input of another card, and it's a Euro game in that regard. But this is a very thematic Euro, and I tend to really like thematic Euros. I don't tend to like dry, boring Euros, which I do, and I really love some of those, but in the majority of the ones that I like that are Euro games, I tend to like the thematic ones. This game is so thematic. Everything you do, hey, you want to start this relationship? Well, this girl wants you to, you start to work on the relationship. This one wants you to have a lot of stuff. This one wants you to have a lot of social interaction. This one wants you to have a lot of knowledge. Just really cool how you do that. And the different jobs, require things like to be the scientist or the science jobs, you need a lot of book smarts. To be the artsy person, you need a lot of creativity. Really cool. I love how the cards, a lot of them are double-sided, like the jobs and the relationships. Relationships that you can play girl or guy, they're both the same. Jobs, you can flip it over. One's like a dentist, the other one's like a technician, stuff like that. Really cool, gives this game a lot of replayability. I like how the cards swap out at the end of the rounds. You're getting to see a lot of cards. I like that even if you don't like the cards, you can get rid of them. I like that, there's different types of projects. There's ones that you can just work on as the game goes on and work your way through them. Or I like there's like one-time ones that you can just jump to anything you want, or group ones that you can work together and get different goals. I like there's some end game goals that you're sort of concentrating on. You have an identity from the beginning, which gives you a little special ability. It's not huge, it's small. I like managing the stress of, hey, if I can get my stress down, then maybe I can live a bit longer. It gets my short-term happiness up, which means I use less stuff. It's all intermingled very well. The mechanisms of this game, they don't feel like mechanisms, it just feels like it fits because it's so thematic. And so if you're looking for a thematic Euro, 60 to 90 minutes, this is definitely one I highly recommend. It was fun. It was a blast to play, to go through, and it's fun to like read through your life at the end and to hear all the things that you did. That tends to be some of the more fun moments as well as you're reading through the cards. In the last game we played, I just got to old age, and also thematically, if you have more than one relationship, you get stress, and then at the beginning of every round, you get more stress. Very thematic in that, right? And I had a relationship all the way pegged to the family, and then I had this summer fling one-time event that I went all the way to the end and had another relationship come up at the very end that stressed me out so much it killed me, but it gave me enough points to win. Very cool things. I like this game a lot. If you like Euro games that are thematic, definitely want to check out, and that is The Pursuit of Happiness.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter and making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.